First, I'd like to thank the Historical Society for inviting Nancy Countryman and myself, Fred Hanus, to give a presentation of Bennett Family Park. It is a great tradition down there on 101. It's marvelous what the volunteers have done. You got to realize, people, this is done by volunteers. Very dedicated people through the years. It's surprising. You start out with one board chairman and 3 or 4 people on the board. Their children are gone through the program. Somebody else comes in and picks up the slack. They leave, another group comes in and picks up the slack. It's unbelievable how that organization works. Also, when they have tournaments, it's all volunteer. We have teams that come out of state saying, how do you do it? Every time we have tournaments, we have to pay for people to have tournaments. We said it's all volunteers, they're dedicated people. So tonight I am going to start the early years of Bennett, and Nancy's going to do the later part. In 1951, 2 people from DePaven, Carl Hensel and Warden Way, had an idea to organize a little league for Minnetonka. So they finally organized, they got 15 boys to play. Ended up being, there was a team from Hopkins, a team from St. Louis Park, from Edina, and Minnetonka. Minnetonka was the first organized little league game in the state of Minnesota. The first few years of the 50s, they played either in church yards or school yards, and the fields were not identically alike. I mean, some were very little grass, no outfield fences, and some had backstops and some didn't have. So they started realizing we would like to get a home field and try to get a field that's always alike so that our boys can play on. So they went over to the DePaven Gun Club. Oops, I better start running my thing here. DePaven Gun Club. Now, I forgot my sticker. Here, I'll get you one.
Oh, be careful. Here it is. There you go.
Here was the overall lay, what they thought that someday Bennett Field would be like. Now here I'm going to show you where the area where it is. And here is this area right here, Bennett Field. It's roughly 22 acres. Another show of the overlay. Now this is the original gun club without this footings here and without these windows. This was the original gun club. That was on the southwest corner of the property. That's where the DePaven Gun Club would put their supplies, because this 22 acres, they use it for practicing for shooting, believe it or not. And Bennett family donated the land to the DePaven Gun Club. This is what it looked like before they started to clear it. It's very low, swampy, a lot of weeds, a lot of tall grass, few trees, 22 acres. And the water table is very close to the surface. Here's another picture of it before the work was being started. Now this is roughly 1956, where they went out and raised funds to start clearing the area so they could have their own ball field. This is the first field of the Little League. Then in June 1st of 1957, they had 4 teams. One was Wright Super Value. Everybody knows Wright Super Value. DePaven Drug Store, Genuine Parts, and Omen Equipment. Ed Robbins was one coach. Harold Stroke was another. Ed Hewitt and Mark Mosman. Mark, would you please come on up?
More.
That's Mark.
I was too young to be a coach, but my dad was.
Excuse me. But anyhow, he is the first, one of the first people that played a doubleheader in 1957 at the ballpark.
June 11th.
June 11th, 1957. Want any comments?
No, but I won the game. I was the pitcher.
Pitcher?
Yes.
Congratulations.
Now, across the street from the Bennett Field was Sullivan Septic Service. Bud Sullivan did a lot of work and he donated it. He donated all his equipment. He came over with a backhoe and a grader and helped the people grade this. And he also dug a hole with the backhoe, and they put a pump in the ground, in the hole, so they could water the field by hand. And he also dug another hole, cut a tree down, put that tree in the hole, and put the first flagpole up. That was the first flagpole. They used the tree for the first flagpole. Now here's showing it. Here's some of the volunteers that were helping to do the work in '56. Also in 1957, the opening league day of '57, Ray Porter from the village of Minnetonka threw the first pitch. Now this is still a village. We weren't a city at the time yet. And the mayor of DePaven, Mr. Dayton, threw the other pitch. So those two people threw out the pitch in 1957.
Who was the mayor of Minnetonka?
Ray Porter, village, Minnetonka village. We were in a city and we were still a village in '57. Here's some of the diagrams that they came up with after that, what they thought that Bennett Field would look like. Now here you can see what they did also roughly in 1957 and '58. They moved the old DePaven Gun Club, and the Lions did this. They put footings underneath the club. They also put windows in it. And what they did, they had meetings upstairs, and also Bennett Field had meetings upstairs. And downstairs, below it, where the cement blocks were, that's where they stored all the equipment for Bennett Field. Like I said, they started out with 4 people. Also, they built a concession stand roughly right in this location. And actually, they called it a green shed. That's all it was, a shed. Roughly about 12 by 14. Downstairs, they used it for a concession stand. They had no electricity in those days, so they had a big wash tub or a big barrel. They would bring the ice into the barrel with water and put that ice pop on ice. That's the only way they could do it because they didn't have it. And upstairs, there was no stairs, only was a ladder. So they had to crawl up the ladder, and upstairs in the second store was where the announcer of the game would announce. He also took care of the official records of the game. Now here's another layout that they had that they were thinking of doing in the future. That green shed was right here. In 1960, they started thinking about building a Babe Ruth field. They had all these boys playing Little League, and they didn't have where to go after that. So here they talk about the dream team opening of Bennett Field, and also, now here shows you again how the land was when they started. Here's their work in 1956. Sullivan was using their equipment. They were donating it. There's some more showing you how they're doing the work. This is 22 acres. Now here is also surprising to me. The green shed that they had, they tore it down and built a warming house. with that lumber. Here's a picture of the boys playing. Here's the outdoor skating rink that they had at Bennett. Here's figure skating and skating again some more. Here, the state of Minnesota is officially naming Minnetonka Rec as official baseball field organization. Also a charter in 1960. Peterson Shoe Store also was very dedicated bunch of people. They donated a lot of time, a lot of money also. Another family that did a lot of work was the Tomlinson family. Gene Tomlinson and his wife and his 3 sons, Lee, Bill, and Bob, did a lot of work. Here's some more pictures of moving the soil. You can see what it looked like. Here's all the trees.
1961.
Yeah, 1961. Also, the people that ran the green shed for the concession first was the Girl Scouts back in 57 and 58. They took care of the concession stand. Then roughly 1960 or 61, they moved a garage in because they needed more space, and that was run by Gene Richter and Phyllis Wheat, W-E-I-K. They ran the concession stand, and that was. Now here is the area now where the Lions and the Minnetonka Rec or Bennett Field Rec meets. You can see how they put a stairway in, put more windows on it, compared to what the old building was. Here also is 3 people that were very active. Etnauer, Mark Mosman.
No, Mort Marsman.
Huh?
Mort.
Mort Mosman. I can't see the other guy's name. But anyhow, that's when they were burning the loan. They had it all paid off. And actually, some figures I heard was $7,500 that they owed the Paving Gun Club, or it was $12,000. But every time they would pay the loan, the gun club would give the money back to them, really. They really didn't want it. So they just changed hands. Okay. In 1963, they started the 6th team. First, before they had 4, and in 1963, they had 6 little league teams. I'd like to stop at this point and really name some more people besides what I just named that also were real strong people in the 60s to make this thing work. Jim Hanus, my brother. Florence Hanus, his wife. Nancy Countryman. Jim Peck. Tremendous. Jim Peck was originally on the National Babe Ruth board. And he has done a lot for Bennett Field. Bill Hartfield, he was also chairman and a lot of fundraiser. Bud Sullivan, I mentioned him. Peterson Shoe Store. And also my mother, Gladys Hanus. These people, along with the ones I mentioned earlier, were really strong in making this thing work. In 1968, they planned to build another field, but they didn't have enough dirt or money to build the field, which was the Babe Ruth field, so they made it the same size as the Little League field because it cost them too much money. So they couldn't do it. But it happened to be, and Nancy's going to get into that, I don't want to take her thunder away from her, and they did it later on. Also, in the mid-60s, on opening day of Bennett Field, we would all meet at Groveland School. We would have the fire truck in front, no, the police car in front, and the fire truck next, and a bunch of school buses would follow. We'd have the T-ballers, the Little Leaguers, Babe Ruth, and girls softball all ride the buses, and we would go through Tonka Woodcroft, down Tonka Road through Somerset Knolls, down through Temple Village, go through Excelsior, down to Tonka Bay, and then come back, go through DePaven, Cottagewood, and go on to Bennett Field. And you could see when we come up to 101 and dropped the kids off, it was just a mad rush down the hill to play. It really got them hepped up to play the game. And that was we did that for about, 7, 8 years. Like I said, it was all volunteers again. And like I say, this thing is built on volunteers, and it's still built today on volunteers. Nancy, it's yours.
It's always hard to follow Fred Hanus. But I think I've been doing it for many, many, many years.
You're ahead of me, I'm behind you.
Because I looked at Minnetonka High School's pictures, and he was ahead of me. So I've been following him. I'd like to thank you all for coming tonight. I'm going to take you actually from the early 70s on through to today. And it's a privilege for me to do this, and I'm happy to be part of it. And I want to thank Bill for all his work, because we have had some sessions, and he's been very patient with me because I'm not computer savvy, so he's going to help me with this. But I want to tell you that the greatest thrill, and I've been a volunteer down there for 42 years. I have not stopped, and I was happy to see that a lot of the people that I've seen down at Bennett are here tonight, and now for their grandchildren, and some of you for your great-grandchildren. Now my grandchildren play down there, and it's a great thrill for me to have them there. In the early 70s, no, I don't have the clicker, dear.
Did I take it away from you?
No, I think you're going to do it for me.
Okay.
In the early 70s, I was a young lady that had 4 children, or was in the process of having 4 children. And I was called to a meeting with Mr. Bill Hartfield. This was the concession stand that I actually started working in. I had been in the other one, but as a resident, because girls weren't allowed to play down at Bennett. There was no room. So I used to sit in the stands and watch Mark Mosman, Brian Stamp, Gary Peterson. They all played. But I had to sit and be a cheerleader on the sidelines. So this was our concession stand, and thanks to the Hanus family, they donated an awful lot of money, and we built that as the Hanus concession stand. This was the concession stand, and this was the meeting room. We had windows here, 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 and one on the other side. This was a game in progress. This was a great picture that we were able to save because we got it in color. But you can see the people that were here. I mean, we really don't have enough parking down there, but we seem to work it out every Saturday and Sunday and during the evening. Now we can go to the next picture.
Did you want to say something about this one before?
I do. I want to talk to you about this because these are very, very close friends of mine. This is Mr. Bill Hartfield right here. This is Fritz Hanus. This is his mother. And this is Jim. Now, the greatest thrill I have ever had at Bennett Park was the buses that used to drop the children off on the hill, and they would get out of the bus and run down. We were all sitting there with great anticipation for their arrival. There would be hundreds, nearly 500 children were on those buses, and it was all donated through the Hanus family. And the tears, you know, my sister and I were talking about it. I have tears for joy and I have tears for sadness. I can't stop it. It just is something in me. But those tears would roll down my eyes when those children would run down in their uniforms. And my husband was a coach, and he would ride on the bus with them. And he had just as much fun doing that and part of that. And that, I'm sorry now you can't do it because we built a new wall up there. And but the children really loved it. And it was good because that was the way they got to know each other, and we all met at, most of us met at Groveland. Okay. Now, this is another special picture. This was done, this is one of the fine workers that we had, Stu Lease, and he was a Cargill employee. So he was the one that set up some wonderful matching grants that the people, we had so many people working at Cargill, so Cargill set this matching grant up, and the employees would match it. This is Nancy Oles, who received a great award that morning, the Stu Lease Award. This is Jack Soderberg, who was he worked for NSP. He was a godsend because electricity was hard to keep it going down there. And so he received a big award. This is Court McFarland, who was then the president. And that year I received it, and that's me right up in the top. I don't know how they got that picture done, but it's a collage.
You sure changed a lot.
And so that's a wonderful picture of people being honored. And Stu Lease has one award, and Bill Hartfield has an award, and Jim Peck has a coach's award, and all of that is found down in the concession stand, the present concession stand at Bennett. Okay, we'll go to the next one. Oh, well, I'm sorry these all come up like this, but this is Mr. Jan Boswinkle. Now, if some of you remember, he was with Wayzata Bank and Trust. Probably the finest gentleman I can remember. And in every volunteer organization, if you're raising money, you better have a good bank. And our bank was Wayzata Bank and Trust. And he was presenting to me, at that time I was president of the park, a $5,000 pledge. At the present time, there's no longer a Wayzata Bank and Trust. We are at the same corner with Americana Community Bank, and I can tell you that without them today, we wouldn't be doing our $1,200,000 project that is now in the process of being built. That was a great, great gift way back then. Okay. Now, this was a kickoff in 1974. Bill Hartfield, who is, I believe, the person that saved Bennett, put together a group of people, and then we hired a professional fundraiser. We needed a professional fundraiser. We couldn't coordinate everything alone. So we hired a fellow by the name of Tom Gorman, and he set us all up. And I remember I was so young then, and he set me up to go with Mr. Hartfield. I called him Mr. Hartfield. Now I call him Bill because he's really a good friend. But we had an appointment to meet with Mr. and Mrs. Ted Bennett. He was the son of the original Bennett family, and they lived down on Lake of the Isles. And this was an old farm that they had, and they had cows for milking on this piece of property originally. So all of a sudden, you know, I had to get some new clothes, or I had to look a lot nicer than probably I've looked in a long time when I went. And they lived in Deep Haven. And we were asking them for a lot of money. And I was shaking in my boots because I'd never done this before. And Bill said, just follow along and be yourself, Nancy. But Bill, what if we don't raise this money? I said, what are we going to do? Don't worry about it. And I said, why am I on this trip with you? Why don't we have somebody else? No, I want you with me. So we asked them for a whole lot of money. And Mr. Theodore Bennett said, why don't you come back in 2 days and then I'll talk to Josephine. And Josephine was there, his wife. And we'll talk about it. And so I walked out of there and I said, Bill, is this the way it goes? Is this the way you fundraise like this? I mean, why did I have to wait for 2 more days to find out? Because, it was a major gift. And without the major gift, we weren't going to do any more major projects. So we went back 2 days later, and we sat in this lovely, and they lived in Cedarhurst in Deep Haven. And we looked out over Lake Minnetonka, or Robinson's Bay, and he said, I want you to sit here, Nancy, and I want to tell you a few things before I tell you about the gift. Well, I'm thinking, what have I done wrong? Am I not asking the right way, or what's going on? And he proceeded to tell me that Deep Haven doesn't have the facilities to do what we were doing in Minnetonka. And this gift would be predicated if I would please remember in my lifetime never to forget the children of Deep Haven. And I thought, that's pretty smart on his part. And I guaranteed him that we would never forget the children of Deep Haven. And I have never forgotten the children of Deep Haven because of this huge gift. Now, he also asked me if I would always remember the Red Cross, because that was his special place to give money. And I've never forgotten the Red Cross either. So Ted and Josephine, he gave the major part, and then she gave me her check. It was funny then. She had her account and he had his account, and that's the way it worked. So we walked out of there, and we were very happy with that large gift. There were other large gifts. One from the Perkins, Mr. Wyman lived in Woodland, and he gave a huge gift. Another huge gift was from Mr. Stakes, and you remember Mr. Stake, Mr. Lease. And then the Hanus family and other people gave large amounts of money. And this was back in 1973 and 74. Okay, then we can go, that was for that. Then you see girls softball was brought into the picture, and we gave them the old Babe Ruth field, which is on field number 3. The Olses live back here, Bobby and Nancy Oles. This faces south west. And the concession stand is up in here now. This is field 2 over here or field 4 for Babe Ruth, Little League, and field 2 is over here on the other side for Little League. We had until about a month ago, we only had 3 fields on that. And we'll move along then. This is a picture of one of our teams. I have to tell you, because I'm pretty proud of him, but this is my grandson. He doesn't know that he's in here, but that's Brett Mays when he was a little boy. Okay, this is the stands. These are some of the people. This is my daughter, Kathy Mays. And these were her good friends that now live in Orono, so we don't talk to them anymore because their boys are very good players. But he was he was a very generous person to himself. Okay, this was a fundraising. Every year we do a fundraiser, 2 of them. We buy up about Well, this year we're going to make about $26,000 from selling Twins tickets. We do a Twins night, so everybody sells tickets. And this was at the Twins night, and there you see the Twins mascot and all of us up there rooting and so on, and then somebody got some face painting. But this is always a tradition. I guess with the new field going in, though, I guess we might not be doing that anymore, so we'll have to look for something else, because I guess they're not going to do it. That's what I've heard. Now, this is at the 40th anniversary. These are some very special people. This is Jim Peck. This is Mrs. Hanus. This is Mrs. Melby. This was Mrs. Tomlinson. That's, let me think. And there's Mr. Tomlinson. I play bridge, help her play. Anyway, do any of you recognize any? Which is this Mr. Wolf? Yeah, okay.
Can I say something, Nancy?
Sure. This is Donna Robinson right here?
No, I think the one over in the corner.
This one? Okay. Thank you for that help.
Also, in the same period of time, when I started alluding to when I got done, that we didn't have enough dirt to build the Babe Ruth field. So at that time, they were doing sewer and water on the western part of Minnetonka. And we convinced the city to bring all the dirt to Bennett Field so we could make official size Babe Ruth field. And I won't forget it today. Trucks after trucks were bringing dirt down, and Sullivan would be there right away with his cat, moving it and leveling it off for us. Sorry, Nancy.
That's all right. Now I do remember this, because this is important. This is Thelma, and that's Earl Benson. And now Jim Benson is their son. But they were key people. And that's Jim Hanus behind his mother with the hat on.
Where was that photo taken?
That photo was taken right on field number 4 during the ceremonies for the 40th.
And there were barns there?
That's
a
a house
house.
across the street.
I'm sorry.
I've often thought it looked like that, though, too. But anyway, now, I want you to know that Fred emphasized volunteers, but I really want to point out something to you so that you really understand what Bennett is all about. On a given night at 4:30 or 4:45, we have 7 games that start playing, both girls and boys. There are 2 teams per game. There are 14 teams playing. There are usually about 3 coaches per team. There's 1 mother or father that's a team parent. And there are 5 volunteers in the concession stand, which equals 61 volunteers in 1 game that are down at Bennett. Now, if you take the 8 games that we play on Saturday, with 6 sessions, there's a total of 366 volunteers that are working every day, every Saturday and Sunday down there. It's huge. And without volunteers, and without a person like Gene Richter, we wouldn't have Bennett Park going, and Mark Mosman also. Okay, this was at the 40th too, when we got out all the old uniforms. These are wool. And you know, you can't play in wool. It's just too hot. But that's what we had. And we had rights and tie-ables in those pictures. Those are the uniforms that we could scrounge up. Now, in 1973 and 74, we wanted lights on the Babe Ruth field. We wanted them very badly. We hired an attorney. We spent $10,000 in attorney's fee. We hired a man by the name of Bruce Melkerson. And unfortunately, we ran into a lot of opposition on Larchwood Circle and a few other places. And so I remember Fred coming to our Sunday night Bennett Park meeting, and he was our liaison between Bennett and City Hall. And I can remember Fred saying, we got to give it up because we're never going to get the lights at Bennett. There's just too much opposition. Oh, that was so sad because we needed those lights so badly. But the good thing that came out of that was Big Willow. Big Willow came into being, and that's down here. And then our Babe Ruth and our senior Babe Ruth and our Legion players could go to Big Willow. So we gave up the lights, and that was really the birth of Big Willow. This is in the hall at Bennett, and great frame up at 7 High framed that for us and donated it, and that's one of our uniforms that we will try and preserve. This was in the last renovation period, not this present one, but the last one, and you can see those are all children and fathers laying sod. And how grateful I am to every one of those people. This Saturday, we're having another sod party of lots of sod that's going down. Okay? This was that 40th reunion, and Mayor Anderson, Karen Anderson, was a presenter. And there's the Lions Club members, and there's the present mayor, Jan Callison. And that's Chris Gabler. That's Chris Gabler in our Bennett Park shirt. Okay. They were giving us a check.
There's Richard Ty.
Yeah, this one's Mr. Tyable right here. He's still living, by the way.
He is.
He's over at Meridian Manor in Wayzata. Okay. You can go. Okay. Now, like I said before, the real reason I think, and I believe this very strongly, that Bennett Park is where it is today is because of Bill Hartfield. He lived on Maple Hill Road. He absolutely was going to make sure that this place was the best place that we could provide for the children to play in the Minnetonka School District. And then Chris Gabler's on the middle, and that's Dave Cordnoy on the left. Okay. This is Mr. Gene Tomlinson giving a few remarks at the 40th. And this is when we tore down the Hanus concession stand. And this was me putting the first sledgehammer into it. It needed to go only because it didn't meet code. And if you know about Minnetonka, Minnetonka is very, very strict, and I'm glad they're strict. And we have a wonderful new concession stand meeting all the codes that we needed to have. So we tore that down.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. Oh, that's upside down. This is more of the laying of the sod. This is, Fred said earlier that this was a swamp originally. Well, we're only 6 inches from over in that corner, the northwest corner to the southeast corner. We're 6 inches above the water table. So that's what we have to work with. But we make it work. That was all gone within a half an hour because we have new systems in there taking the water away. This building on October 10th, if you want to come down and watch it, will all be demolished. has asbestos in it, and it is not safe at all. So that will be removed. Now, this was one of the pictures I took when I came home. I was a little nervous because I thought we weren't going to get the fields ready to go. We're under construction, and we're calling it the Miracle at Bennett. We can go on from that, yeah. Miracle at Bennett, this is field 3. This faces out to, this is Highway 101. There's a new field being built here for the 5, 6, and 7-year-old boys and girls. 5, 6, and 7-year-old boys and girls will play on that field and also on that field. This is the new handicap field. That's why we're calling it the Miracle Field. We are very, very proud that we can provide. I didn't realize there were so many handicapped children in and around Minnetonka. Now they are going to have a place to play. So you can see all of these people are involved with it. Bennett Family Park, Tonka Day Group, Minnetonka Girls Softball, East Tonka Little League, and Miracle League. Okay, now, these children are perfectly capable of playing their own games in their own leagues. This young child is in a wheelchair. These are the buddies. These children get more out of this, I think, than this person in many ways because they realize how fortunate they are that they have no handicaps. And they work with these children, and it is the most thrilling thing that goes on any place to be able to help those handicapped children. And there you see somebody else. And you see, can we go back to that one picture? You see that the tee is here, and the ball was placed on the tee, and this child hits the ball, and this child, who is a member of a team, then wheels that child down to first base. It's a wonderful thing to see. Okay, then there's another buddy system. You see how these are the kids that have helped, and they go through the same line, making sure that these kids have the same opportunities that the regular teams have. That's great. And this will be, on this particular field right here, is where that new field will be. Now that's going to be called the Harmon Killebrew Miracle Field. I brought a bat today that Harmon Killebrew gave us, his 553rd, or 73rd home run. He signed it for us and gave it to us. I also brought the original book, the first book of record keeping, when Mark Mosman hit his home run and got up to bat. It's really exciting to watch that, to read it. Now, I just want to tell you, is that my last picture? No, dear. This was last Saturday. See, I'm still down there doing the working, and I took coffee and rolls and water to all the workers that were working last Saturday. We are putting up, we probably saved ourselves $50,000 already in just volunteer work that we've done. Okay, now this is our president now. This is, his name is Bob Litsky. He works for Life Touch. On the back of the Babe Ruth fields, we have all these World Series teams that we are very proud of throughout the years. We've had some very, very strong teams. Now, this was our, I showed you this before. This is a 50-year-old banner that was made by a lady who doesn't have a lot of money, and she wanted to make us something, and she made that and put that together for us. And I'm very proud of that. This is our all-star team, our only all-star team in our history that went to Williamsport. And that team is also on the concession stand. And this young man, Jim Brower, is still playing, and he's down in Japan, way up the top there. He's playing professional ball. He played for the Giants, and he's played for the Yankees and a number of teams. Yeah, that was the team. This is what you'll find inside the new concession stand. These people have all given money. There's a memorial there from Mort Mosman and a lot of the other people that did so much to build Bennett Park. Okay? Those are some of the trophies that are in that hallway. This is our Hall of Fame plaque that has the Bill Hartfield Award, the Hanus Award, and the Jim Peck Award. So you can see all those people. Gladys Hanus is on there. This is our construction. We're doing a construction project right now, and it should be done by the end of October, $1.2 million. We've raised $520,000. It's in 5 different banks, and then we have $500,000 of in-kind gifts. People have donated bricks and so on. And then we're short about $65,000 that we're working on right now. This is a new handicap walk that will come up, and they'll be able to bring their wheelchairs up there and into the concession stand. There it is. Look at how nice that brick and everything is. It's beautiful. This is the little children's play lot. That's our gazebo that if you ever want good hamburgers on Saturday, we fry hamburgers and cheeseburgers and brats and hot dogs. That building is going, and there's our new building that's replacing this one. That's our new maintenance shed. So that will be done. And that's the man right there that is he works for Opus Corporation. You know, that's a big building company. And his name is John Williams, and he lives on Tonkawood Road and Lake Street Extension. He is the mastermind behind this whole thing. This is our new field that will be for 13-year-olds only. There'll be 70-foot bases instead of 90. When you're in Little League, it's too big a jump to go up to 90 right away, so we're building that field, an intermediate field at 70 feet. There he is. He didn't want us to take a picture of him. He didn't know what to do. There's where we were delivering the coffee and everything. That's my son-in-law. I rented a jackhammer type thing, and I said, Tim, would you please do it? And he's still shaking, and that was last Saturday. That was big. It was hard. That's the old sign that I'm trying to give away to somebody, but I guess it's going to take too much work. I thought maybe some little field someplace down south or something could take it, but I guess they can't do it. There's our new wall that's on 101. That's good. That's a new area that cars will be parking. And there we go. Those are some of the people that... Again, I'd like to say that I just want to say that John Williams from Opus Corporation today, Bob Jasper of Bank of America, Bob Litsky of Life Touch, and our president are key at this present time to making this a project that will take us 50 years out. I don't think I have any energy left to be in another fundraiser, but I was telling Gene Richter, don't want to stop my volunteering at the concession stand. I feel that I'm so fortunate that, one, I was born in the United States of America, and two, I was given the opportunity by a bunch of men long time ago to work in this wonderful park and to be involved with children. There's nothing greater on this earth than to work with children and to give them the best opportunities. I've always felt that if you work with children and give them opportunities on a baseball field or a tennis court or wherever, you're going to keep them out of juvenile court. And I've strongly believed in that, and I just am glad that the good Lord gave me the opportunity and that I got to live in Minnetonka, Minnesota. Thank you.